Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's number one do it yourself advocate show, Timeshare Solutions or Surrender with Irene Parker. I am Kimberly Calhoun, one of the producers, and I am just so excited about some of the things that we have done lately. This is episode 57, folks. Yes, we have had 57 different stories, whether it's horror stories from people who feel like they've been scammed by timeshares to actually really good stories and good endings with timeshares. There are just so many out there. But one of the things that we want to do is we want to help you, the people, find a way to make your vacation and what you invested in a happy solution. And so last week, Irene and team and I went to ARDA's conference and their award ceremony. And ARDA, is kind of like the opposite end of what we try to do, but they're the people who can make the decisions to make timeshares a better place. And so what better place to be than in the hallway where the executives walk up and down all day long, and we're there doing interviews, and we have a truck outside driving up and down, protesting, timeshares, saying don't buy, I think Wyndham, they lie. So, but anyway, Irene, that was exciting working with you last week.
Well, and Grandma's on TikTok now, so I'm pretty proud of that. That we broadcast both Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday was our first attempt, thanks to your brilliant Wizard of Oz skills. We were able to see ourselves on TikTok. Now we have several guests today, and I'm going to first bring to the stage Evie. And Evie is in the Air Force. Evie, we want to thank you for your service.
Let's unmute Evie.
Evie, are you there? Okay, well she'll unmute herself. She has to unmute herself.
Yeah, she has to unmute herself.
Okay, and then we also have Jeff. Hi, Jeff. And Jeff and I were raised on the opposite ends of the baseball spectrum. So I'm a St. Louis born and bred St. Louis Cardinals girl, and Jeff grew up a Kansas City Royals fan. And Jeff, I am so impressed. We have a professional with us today. He is a cameraman and filming Major League Baseball games. So we'll be looking forward to hearing a little bit about that. We also have on our set today, Lori. Lori is in Texas, and she is this is kind of a full show today. So we're hoping we have time. I want to talk a little bit more since we just went on TikTok, which I'm trying to understand. And Lori convinced me to open an X account, formerly Twitter. And she used to have 80,000 followers, and now she has 40,500 followers. So we're really trying to get the word out there about the oral representation clause, that it's buried in fine print, that you agree that you did not rely on anything a sales agent said. Now, Kim was talking about the conference, and what was really amazing to me is we had we were one of the reasons we attended the conference is in the end of 2021. She was embarrassed, so she came up with the name Bend Over. Ben has two N's. Launched the Westgate Timeshare Hostages Facebook group. It's grown to over 4,000 members quickly. And so I thought it was kind of odd that Westgate Resorts, for their guest speaker, featured Paul Whelan. Paul Whelan was the Marine veteran that was held in a Russian prison. There was some controversy because he had been held since 2018, and Brittany Griner had been released rather quickly compared to that. But then Tom, who was in his truck with the sign, he's serviced with 23 years with the Baltimore Police Department. And he searched on Wikipedia, and we learned that Mr. Whelan was discharged from the Marines for bad conduct related to larceny. And he had bounced 10 checks, used somebody else's security number, and also charged with dereliction of duty and demoted. So that was kind of an odd choice. But then while we were filming, the story broke, and it went all across the country about Paul and Christy Akeo, held in a maximum security jail in Mexico. They bought a timeshare from Palace Elite Resort 3 years ago. They disputed it, retained an attorney, and American Express agreed with them, sided with them, and refunded $117,000. They've checked in, they've gone back to Mexico a couple times, but on March 4th, they were detained and sent to a maximum security prison accused of fraud. And the company, which is based in Florida, but with the resort in Mexico, is demanding $250,000, a non-disclosure agreement, and a public apology. There's been some reporting on the other side that maybe they did commit some fraud, but I haven't looked into that enough. Then the third hostage, and you can go to TARDA's monthly newsletter, we've got this, is the timeshare law firm started filing a lot of lawsuits across the country against several developers. So Westgate Resort has motioned the court for sanctions, claiming that Westgate filed 60 frivolous lawsuits. Well, probably frivolous because of the oral representation clause. And they were the hostage situation with them is their son. The presentation was 7 a.m. So they left their son in the room. He could have been 12 years old, not too young. I don't know. But at 8:30, she was worried about him, and she went to check on him. And they said, well, you have to sign documents before you can go check on him. So she signed documents and came back at 8:30, but she was locked out of the room, and the child was locked in. So she went back to the presentation, and they said, oh, your husband has to sign documents first. So he signed documents, and they went and got him, obviously frazzled. These were sworn depositions. So maybe they're not telling the truth, but it would be under threat of perjury. That contract they signed, they must have been unaware, was $38,000. They lost in arbitration, and they are ordered to pay Wyndham over $91,000. So with that, we're going to start with Evie is got her microphone on. So I think I need to try to, I don't know how to communicate with her, but Jeff, you're going to, your primary concern is you have medical challenges in your family. And there are instances where people have been released from contracts due to medical hardship. But the reason for the medical hardship, and also you reached out to TARDA, never dreaming you'd probably be here today, about a week or two ago, asking about a particular exit company. And so right away we swing into action. And I'm so excited, not just because you're a baseball cameraman professional, but because you've been through our process for only like a week now. And we started with asking some questions and people helping you get started. I always start with, when was the first time you became involved with Wyndham? Our goal on this show is to help people understand that it is not necessary to pay anyone to resolve a dispute. Number one, Wyndham will not negotiate with a timeshare exit company. They were awarded $16 million just last year, suing an exit company and a law firm. So I was reading on Tug, and I was reading on a Facebook post that if you signed up with that exit company, you would have to do all the work yourself anyway. But go ahead and take us from how you first became involved and walk us up to I think 2016, where all of a sudden now, so many years later, you're in the situation where you may be forced to default.
Yeah, so in 2016, we joined with Wyndham at the minimum level that they would allow at the time, which was 6,000 credits. And we were members. We didn't use it that often, but it wasn't that big of a deal. So kind of just sort of let it lie in the background, using it occasionally for here and there, little short trips. And then in 2023, they started to ramp up the pressure about how, they couldn't have us at that minimum number of points, and they needed to bump us up to, 12,000, getting towards the bronze level. And, we sat through a required meeting where, they gave us all the reasons why we should. So we ended up taking their, advice, and we joined for another 6,000 credits. That went on for probably about a year and a half, and then or a little over a year, and then they said, yeah, well, you need to get up to 18,000 credits to get to the bronze level, which I assumed we already were at. It's just deception, sort of, as it happens within that within the organization. They pressure you to get more and more and more. I did end up bumping up to the 18,000, and then within a couple of months, we heard from someone else that said, well, you should have done 20. I'm not sure why they told you to stop at 18. That's the level you need to get to.
Okay, let me stop you there and hold that thought. That's chapter one. And Evie, I know she's with the Air Force and she doesn't have much time. Evie, are you with us now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we started by explaining that Jeff reached out to us asking about whether we would recommend a particular exit company. And you reached out to us about Holiday Inn Club Vacation. And what's really upsetting is Evie was referred to timeshares only, that we've had a number of complaints of the inflated listing price. If you call a licensed broker wanting to sell your timeshare and you have a loan, they would tell you it's not worth your time or mine. So in addition to battling this, Evie, how much money did you lose posting an ad? Well, first of all, since you don't have a lot of time, let's go ahead and hear your story about Holiday Inn, how
Okay.
you got involved with it, and what led to your defaulting on your loan.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually got into with Holiday Inns in 2019. So I was just going on a vacation to Orlando, and obviously I received a promotion type of flyers through email saying that, oh, okay, you can come to our you know like the Holiday Inns, and then you can have your hotel comped if you come to our presentation. And then so obviously, like, okay, I went there and I stuck in the room with them for maybe 3.5 4 hours. After that they did like a tour, and then just like the very convincing sales pitch. And so I end up signing with them because they were telling me that, hey, you can, that they have so many different places, they have so many, they have a lot of resorts everywhere else in the states, and then like even like overseas and stuff like that. Being in the military, we do tend to go different places, right? So I was like, okay, so that could be a good opportunity for me to actually, take some time off. And then, but the things they told me that, okay, yeah, I can sell it anytime. It is a really good investment. And then so if I don't use it, I can actually transfer my points to the Holiday Inn. I was like, okay, so many perks that they told me about during the sales pitch. So okay, I end up signing up with them. Like I don't think it was the very minimum, but it was like the like the second last minimum that I can actually sign up with them. And so, but the
Yeah,
thing is,
I have your
mhm,
figures here. So you bought 45,000 standard points for $10,900,
right,
but you financed 11,000 at 15.95%. And
yes.
that was that was just in 2022, right? September of 2022.
Okay, yeah.
Did you use your points at all?
No, I did not use my points at all. And then so the thing is like one thing they didn't tell me about, like, oh, I actually have to pay to transfer my points to Holiday Inn, the
You
actual
mean
hotel. Right.
to transfer timeshare points to convert them to be able to stay in Holiday Inn hotels?
Yes. So
Okay.
they did not actually tell me that I actually have to pay to. They just told me that, oh yeah, if you don't use it, you can just transfer over. I was like, okay, that I mean, yeah, that will be a good thing. But the thing is, I never actually use any of the points. The only time I only use to book a reservation once. Um in Myrtle Beach. That was the only time. But the thing is like even when I did not like the timeshare at all. When I was staying over there, it would just look very gloomy, and then I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It just like it looked very, not saying sketchy, but it just like it doesn't really feel like very welcoming to me. When I was staying at their the resort. But anyway, so yeah, so I that was the only time that I use the timeshare, like their program. I forgot what the program is, but that you can actually stay with like partner hotels. um
Was your military, being in the military, how does that affect being able to use a timeshare from your perspective? Because we've had others say because they are deployed a lot, they
mhm.
can't, they can't book way far ahead.
Yeah, so like that obviously you have to, I think they usually recommend that you book out like at least like 10 months or a year, and then that has been very difficult for me because I don't know what's gonna happen 10 months or a year from now. And then so and like we move a lot as a military, so I'm in the place that there's nowhere there's no like availability to me from the Holiday Inn resort. So like I think the closest one is in Vegas. But
Oh,
again, it, like that's not really like in my plan to go vacation, I guess. So it's just have been very challenging. And then with the maintenance fee that I have to pay, and then they add on some maintenance fee for me to pay for like 2023. I was like, why am I paying? Like I already paid the maintenance fee, but now you just add on some random fee for me to pay. So
well, and we have 20 people. You're on this list that I have sent to the Federal Trade Commission. Paul Drayton is in charge of military and education. That these are all people that are serving our country that are finding their security clearances in jeopardy. Now, the fact that you defaulted, did you talk to your, let's see, in the Air Force, that would be JAG, right? That you would talk to before you defaulted? Did you talk to someone?
no, I did not. In our previous conversations, because I just had my security clearance. completed before I actually filed for it.
That's
And
right.
that wasn't really in the plan. I wasn't like planning on like complete my security clearance and default on my payment. That wasn't that, but it just so happened that I did complete my security clearance before um I default on my payment.
Well, and it's possible. We had an attorney on the show, Jeff, that said if you continue to make loan payments, you may as well not retain our law firm. And we've had both Norma and Seema on the show. Norma owed $4,300 a month. Seema owned $5,000 a month, and it was back and forth and back and forth. And it wasn't until they had no choice but to default. Her husband was 80 years old and going to retire with no pension. So, Evie, have you been getting a lot of collection calls?
Yes, I get like almost every day. And then I did actually talk with the account manager. Um, and then I kind of let them know what's going on. I also told them about a hardship because it just with the monthly payments, with the interest that high, and then plus the maintenance fee, that's a lot of money coming out. And then I'm a single parent, so it has been very challenge for me. So I kind of also told them about that as well. And so they said that they will update my account, but I was still getting collection call that like people from Holiday Inn calling me, regarding the payments.
Have I told you my Scotty Black story?
No, I don't
Okay,
think so.
Scotty is he was a Navy veteran. He defaulted on a loan several years ago. And he would get a call at work from the collection agent and he would say, "I'm really glad you called." Who tells a collection agent that they're really glad that they called? And he would
Mm-hmm.
try to keep the collection agent on the phone as long as he possibly could. And it was Diamond Resorts, and he was in Arizona, and he would tell people, there's 1,000 complaints filed just with the Arizona. You're calling me, so you're part of this, and I really want to talk to you about this. So the collection agent was trying to get away from him, and then one night he called me and he said, I had a really bad day at work, so when I got home, I sent the executives 50 tweets. And after 18 months, they just called him and canceled his loan. His complaint was they had not sold enough points for a family of 6 to go to Hawaii. And so the answer, of course, is to buy more points, get to the next level, no problem. So I'm not saying that you have to do that, but if you're in the mood, it's good to talk to them, because the most important thing about being in the military, and this is another reason we were at the conference, is all 4 of the finalists, Wyndham, Hilton, Westgate, and Blue Green Holiday Inn, were sued, accused of violating the Military Lending Act. Westgate lost at the lower court when Judge Dalton said, when I check out of a timeshare, I can't leave my underwear and toothpaste, meaning that it is not a residential stay, it's a transient stay. The Military Lending Act exempts home mortgages. Well, you would think that would be it, on top of Fannie Mae saying it's not a mortgage, and the NCUA, the National Credit Union Administration, says it's not a mortgage. And so your contract really should be void from inception. Now, I have one person in the Air Force, and I believe I introduced you to Dylan, right, Evie?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Dylan, you're 6 years with the Air Force, he's 5 years, you're back and forth. And Edelyn in Jacksonville with the Navy, she has been talking to her JAG officer, and I am going to be providing the court filings for them to see if that's going to help. And I would like to do the same thing for you. Well, as you said, you've just done your security clearance, so I don't want to poke the bear right now. And how often do you do security clearances? Is it every 6 years?
Every 5, 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, every 6 years. Okay. So, all right, I appreciate you staying with us this long. I know you said you only had 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Would you like to share any closing shots, comments?
Don't use timeshare only because yeah, they don't do anything. It has been I have been using well, I got on timeshare only about a year ago, and then there's zero movement. There's nothing else, obviously, because nobody's gonna buy a timeshare still with payment on it. So yeah,
Members supporting members is very important. So Jeff, you know, it's possible that you may need to stop making payments, and to hear from somebody that stopped making payments 2 months ago or 2 years ago and the process. That's why we have a Facebook group to support people that are in your situation. So thanks for joining us today. And what we want to talk about in the rest of the show after we hear more about Jeff and our process to work directly with the developers. We want to talk a little bit about social media. And Jeff, since you're in the media field, maybe you can stay on with us and offer some comments about that as well. Okay, so
Sure.
where we left you, Jeff, you had in 2016 bought 6,000 credits, WorldMark credits, and then you made 3 additional credits to get up to 20,000 credits. And then, what was you mentioned something about being told you could refinance, and you mentioned something about being able to rent. Let's go ahead and pick it up from there.
Okay. So yeah, I was just concerned because, everything was stable for so long, and all of a sudden they had this sudden need to expand our number of credits. Which anyway, and one of my questions was, well, why do I need this many credits? And they said, well, don't worry about it. A lot of people get more credits than they need, and then they resell their credits, or they book rooms and allow WorldMark to market those to non-WorldMark members to get income, and then they split that income 60-40 with us. So that's they made it sound like that was a great way to offset big chunks of your expense for that. And they even had very specific things like, oh well, find out where the Super Bowl is and book a room for the next year, and then we'll resell it. So and then I started to run the numbers on that, and it actually doesn't make sense because they pay you 60-40, but they tax you at 100% of whatever they sell. And I've never actually done it. Actually, I'm trying to do one. I tried to do one for next Super Bowl, but nothing really happened. So it seems to be just a sort of a tactic to kind of assuage you to get more points, but I don't think the solution actually works. Also mentioning possibly refinancing the debt, because you're getting it at 12 to 14%, or wherever your interest rates are. And it's not like a real estate loan that you can go to your credit union and try to refinance. I tried that, so I mentioned that, and I was told sort of off the cuff that, oh well, I know a place. One of the guys said, I know a place where you can refinance it. Just get a hold of me later. And of course, that was another just tactic to push me through and get me signed, because that has not ended up going anywhere. So basically, you're on your own with what you buy, and once they push you through that process, you're sort of on your own, and a lot of the promises that they make don't actually come true, that I found.
That by reaching out to Wyndham, we have had people able to resolve their disputes. We had on our show Norma that, as I said, she owed them $4,300 a month, and she was able, it took some back and forth, but she was very proactive, and they finally helped her out with that. Another word about renting, though. We have this is Tom that was at the conference with us, and it takes a lot for somebody to go to this much trouble. And I think Tom just heard that that, well, let me remove that from the screen. When Tom heard that Wyndham was a finalist for the Award of Excellence, we had on our show episode 36, October 28th, Megan. Megan was pregnant with her third child when their Wyndham sales agent said, "Don't worry about your husband, a Marine, being deployed to a combat zone. You can rent it out and it will pay for itself." She was on our show detailing how she attempted to do that and why it didn't work. Tom was told he made his last, he spent over $150,000 on points for over 20 years. He's one of 3 people that have reached out recently, including a 100% disabled veteran, Army veteran. And he was told to use extra holidays. So Wyndham has 2 approved programs, extra holidays and vacation share. Jeff, do you know which one you booked? Did you book through one of those?
Vacation share.
Okay, vacation share. So one of the problems is people can cancel. And if they cancel, you don't get your points back. The other complaint over and over again is if you give them enough points to rent for a week, they'll rent out 3 or 4 days. And, possibly pocketing the difference and renting them out. We have no way to know that. So it didn't work for him very well. So then he went to another update and said, we counted on this. And the guy said, no, yeah, they're not very effective. We have someone to refer you to that will be able to help you with this. And one of the people that worked there used to be worked for Wyndham. So he signed up for them, and it did work. He was able to offset about 30% of his costs, and then received a cease and desist letter from Wyndham accusing him of commercial activity. So, I'm glad you found us. We have heard from 226 families just since January 1. That's a lot for us. An exit company, a big exit company can get 3,000 callers a week. Now, you have, we started your report and it was sketchy, right? And so now you've revised the report. One thing I wanted to ask though is when people bought 3 or 4 or 5 times, sometimes they went out of everything. And I understand the medical hardship, but is it possible to, obviously your last purchase was 2,000 points. If you were able to reverse that, it's not going to help you that much. Would you need to, would you be able to go back to your first purchase of 6,000 points and keep up with that? And did you use those 6,000 credits?
That's a good question. Some years we did, some years we didn't. They allow you to bank your credits and push them forward. Basically, I used them as I could because I would have little stays here and there, and I would say, okay, well, I'm going to use my points because I'm paying for them. Whether or not it made that much of a difference, were they destinations that I was, big week-long vacations? Never. There was a night here and a couple of nights there, more out of convenience. If I were able to, backtrack and go back to where we were before, that would be a possibility. It just seems like, the deception part of it is got me really shaking my head to the point where, I think getting out altogether is a much better option for me and in our situation. And we do have a medical hardship in the family, a disability case that is taking an awful long time to resolve. So at the same time, while we're, spending, more money out of pocket and not getting, income we were expecting, it's really compounded on that hardship for us. So
were you
I suppose that would be a possibility, but
Were you a two-family income and you lost one income?
Yeah, and you know, in a disability case that's just taking forever to go through the system. In the meantime, while you know our points and our expense has gone up for the timeshare on the other side of things, so it's just become kind of an untenable situation, which is what brought me to you guys in the first place. And you know, I'm glad to have found you guys.
So is that a yes or a no if you could go back to your first 6,000 credits and maintain those? It sounds like you would, rather than ask for that, you're leaning more towards if they say no to just default.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I'm still kind of working that through my head, but you know, we were in a situation where it wasn't too bad before, and it's just gotten really, you know, obviously tripling the number of points and the fees going up and everything has really been a shock um, and unnecessary in our case. So potentially, yeah, but you know, I kind of want to see how this goes. I'd like to get out altogether at this point and have a clean break.
But I don't want people to say they would agree to something and they wouldn't. So is that a no to keeping the 6,000 credits?
At this point, it's a no. Yeah.
Okay, so you would need to be released from everything. And then when you wrote the revise, we don't have you send us your contracts because we're not lawyers, but everybody needs an editor. I need an editor, and whoever writes anything. Sometimes I read these reports and I'm like, have your neighbor read it. So we have Lori back with us now. Well, she's hi Lori. Uh, we're going to get to you in just a minute with the social media, but so I think Jeff. Oh, and the last thing is when you sent me you homework, right? You got the paper handed back and you had to write on it some more. One thing I didn't see on your report was well, you put the number of credits purchased and you put the date and you put the location. But what is good to include is now if you had the first 6,000 had been paid off, there was no loan, right?
No, there was still a loan,
Oh, on
but
the very
it
first
was almost done. You know, it was like a 10-year loan, so we were getting close.
Okay, so maybe not include that, but for the second, third, and fourth purchase, if you can, you should include the purchase price, the down payment, the amount financed, and at what interest rate.
Okay.
Okay, that paints the picture. So, and very few people have those details when they reach out to us. So, we just had someone 2 days ago that have spent 600,000 on points and they upgraded 27 times. And so I'm not going to make them go back for 27, all of that information. We'd need to do like those detectives do on their whiteboards. But you want to, in your case, that gives you the picture of where you're at right now. And also when Wyndham reads it, hoping they will read it, they see what the picture is. And a lot of times, like with a situation like that, I'll listen to upsell 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have to hear all that before we go back and write the very first paragraph. What do you want? And that has to be your decision. We don't give legal advice. We have some attorneys. There's a very good law firm in Las Vegas. I would not hesitate to send my mother, father, daughter or son, if I had one, too. So if somebody wants a legal opinion, that would be okay. Now, I'm not going to let you off this show without telling me how you got into baseball. Did you get into it in Kansas City? Are you a baseball player? If you're willing to share your favorite teams, we were watching the San Diego Padres last night when we checked on the camera. So I'm assuming you have to be a fan of the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, I'm a big Padres fan. Still a Royals fan as my hometown team. So it's nice having two teams in opposite leagues. So they're not competing during the season for the same crown. But yeah, those are my two favorite teams. Yeah, I played baseball a lot growing up, right through college, and played softball and a little bit of adult baseball. But I'm more of a fan now and a camera operator at the games occasionally. So I definitely have a strong affinity to baseball and really all televised sports.
And you're a small business owner, right? You own your firm?
Well, yeah, I own a small production company as well that I've actually worked at since 1992. Um,
Well,
and
one of the problems is my husband and I, we owned a pharmaceutical research laboratory and we had 23 employees. Our employees could go borrow money, no problem. If we wanted to borrow money, we got put through the ringer because we were a small business. So if you default on this loan, I want to mention your credit score can drop 200 points. Are you and your wife okay with that? And is there any need with your business that could cause some problems?
I'm not really concerned about it. I'm not in the process of getting any loans over the next few years. And, I've actually consulted my financial advisor about that. And they seem to not think that was a problem either. So I'm not overly concerned about that.
One good thing about Wyndham, I mean, it's not very good, but compared to Hilton and Holiday Inn, especially that Evie bought from, is I attended that 5-day trial. I attended all 5 days, and I listened to Wyndham's lead witness, Ramona Harrington, in charge of lending, where it makes no sense to me that you could default on a $30,000 timeshare loan. It's worthless to you, so they buy it back for $1, sell it to somebody tomorrow for 30,000, and then turn around and sue you on the $30,000 note. If they could get away with it doubling the money. We've had attorney Mike Finn on that said there's no other product that allows that. If you sell a house in foreclosure and they sell it for more than what you owe, they owe you money. It's not worthless. And so they said 180 days that they foreclose, and they take the points back. So that way you don't have to worry. I mean, that was under oath and that was 2 years ago. Things can change, but at least now those lawsuits, I know one firm has a dozen lawsuits with Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn did not win any of those lawsuits. It was only people that had signed up with an exit company or had signed up with a law firm in order to like punish the law firm racking up billable hours that they could not charge their client anything additional. So I don't know if that's much to not have to worry about, but sometimes, and they word all this correspondence that you feel like they're going to take your house and your firstborn child away. So we have that Facebook group when people get, I got a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And somebody will post and say, that's a good thing. In lieu of means instead of. Marriott has been kind of the kindest, I think, where I've actually been on the phone with someone with Marriott that needed some help. And they, you miss a few payments and we start the deed in lieu of foreclosure process. So no problem. Now, I want to have some time before we go. Lori,
I
tell
want
us a
to
little bit.
point out.
Yeah.
Oh God, we got some serious feedback here. I wanted to point out something that just came to my mind while we were having this conversation. And timeshares, to me, are more like an Airbnb that you own for 1 week or whatever week or time that you buy, but you should be able to switch them. So it's almost to me like there's no laws to timeshares. Like they don't have any regulations. They really don't. They don't
Well,
have
Arda will,
laws.
I'll be Arda here. Arda has been quoted over and over and over again. Timeshare is a highly regulated product, but the process of selling it it's the oral representation clause. And Kim, you're our guru when it comes to producing this show. So we have one thing I want to encourage Jeff and Lori and anyone on our show is to join LinkedIn. When you post on Facebook, you're kind of preaching to the choir. But I've noticed that on LinkedIn, and Kim, I couldn't believe I went to LinkedIn and producer Nick, an attorney, posted on LinkedIn our show. He must have something up his sleeve because it's episode 61, April 21. And you could actually click on it and attend, and it would put it on your calendar.
Oh, yeah. So we pre-schedule your shows. You remember I told you I pre-schedule your shows? And in the system that we use, we send it to LinkedIn, YouTube, and then they set up so that you can calendar it. So when I booked your shows last night, I did up to 60 something. And so, wherever I sent it to, it notifies people, hey, this show will be on this date, mark your calendar. So yeah, we don't play the show then, we can't, but it does let you mark your calendar for future shows. And I do this for all of the shows. Get this, all of them, when we schedule through our network, they all broadcast out to let people know what day, what time, and everything. Yeah, it's really cool.
And you're in 123 countries. Jeff, do you have any knowledge or experience with TikTok?
Oh, I had to mute him. There's an echo. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. So I've been muting each of us. So
yeah. So and Lori's muted. Lori, tell us how you got started on X. And I'm trying, as an old lady, to understand TikTok now and X and all of this. You started posting on X. You're disputing Hilton and over availability. I'll never convince either of you that Hilton, when sold honestly, is a good product. But I know many people that are happy with it.
If you want to go to a resort here, over your life, if you love Hawaii, that's what you're going to do. I think you can do it. But for me, it's not.
And how did you, what have you had reaction? When did you start posting on X? What has the reaction been?
I started posting on X about a month ago, roughly. And I have a large following. Well, it's really a modest following as far as X goes, but it's kind of a large number, 40,000 people. Most of them honestly are in the political realm, posting stuff about the Trump administration. And so Timeshare isn't their actual interest. The other group, which is kind of a subset of the first, is people that post about diet and health. And because I don't want to turn any potential timeshare people that might be interested in me off, I don't post on political topics at all now. I do post on the diet and health because I've got to get my readership up so that more people will see what I post at all. The X algorithm works that way. I've got to get likes and reposts in order for people to see me. So even though I've got 40,000 followers, it's hard for me to get more than 6,000 impressions a day, meaning 6,000 computers collectively see the 30 or 40 posts that I make daily. So it's tricky. And I've asked for people to follow me, but honestly, for new followers to follow me, it's not that much help because they need a following to repost me too. So that's just kind of how X works.
Well, and I'm not happy with people. It is so hard to find people to volunteer to help our cause. And here you are out there slugging away on X, posting this show and whatever you can. And then on our support Facebook group, you get all this political backlash just because it's X.
It's X, I know.
And
honestly,
I'm like,
I want to help anybody that needs out of a timeshare, or anybody that might go to a presentation that hasn't bought yet. I want them to know what's going on here, because I feel like so many people don't know. They might have some idea, like, oh, my grandmother's next door neighbor 40 years ago said she hated timeshares. Well, that doesn't tell you why, and that doesn't tell you what's going on now. And if you do like I did, and you go to a Hilton presentation and you think, well, this is Hilton and it's points now, so I don't have to go through the rigmaroles of arranging an exchange if I don't want to go to this one resort in the Poconos anymore. You can get misled. And I did. I went in there with the intention of saying no. And so I didn't research enough. There was information. I see it all over the place now that I could have stumbled across before I talked to those guys, but I didn't.
Wait a minute. Let me stop you there. So I'm glad you brought that up for both Jeff's benefit and your other EV. When you're talking about availability, and you're talking about the ability to be able to refinance and the ability to be able to sell, those things are not in the contract.
Right.
So the argument from the developers is you should have read the contract. You could have canceled, and Jeff mentioned in his report that, there just wasn't enough time when I was signing papers to review things. And I'm like, well, the answer to that is I could be a robot auto denier. I know, I've heard their answers over and over again. So the answer to, they didn't give us enough time to review the contract is, well, in Nevada, you had 5 days to cancel. In Florida, you had 5 days to cancel. But that doesn't help you if you're told you can refinance and the need doesn't come up until something happens. Anybody can have an adverse life effect that causes that. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Now, with Kim, you've been researching TikTok. I go on TikTok and you're flipping up and all of these people are just going on and on about all of this stuff. And then I see Chuck Schumer, and then I see some lawmakers. So I thought, well, it can't just be, people grandstanding. Can you just explain to people watching us how TikTok can help us? The only court open, I feel, is the court of public opinion.
Oops.
Beforehand, that the oral representation clause, you're agreeing that you did not rely on anything a sales agent said. How does TikTok work? How do we get that message out? How do we get people to us? If you can give us a TikTok for dummies in our last few minutes here.
And again, I've had a TikTok account for years that my niece signed me up for, and I never used it until maybe once or twice last year. I just wanted to kind of see what was going on with it. And then in January, when the big hoopla of, oh, they're going to take it down, and they did. And then they put it back up. And what I noticed was a lot of people were not happy with some of what happened when it came back up. There's a lot of limitations, a lot of restrictions, a lot of banning of words now. But what's great about TikTok is the community of people. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of groups, but they all support each other. And this is one thing that I really like about them. They almost have this unknown rule that if you follow me, I'll follow you. So you can build your following base pretty fast. Not everybody does that, but a lot of people do. I mean, I am shocked at the amount of people when I first got out there and started doing this. And then there are people that are not crazy. You get a lot of those crazy. There's a lot of TikTok shops and sales, which I haven't really learned a lot about, but a lot of people get on there and they sell a lot of goods and they make a lot of money doing it. The other thing about TikTok is engagement, right? And that's what it's really famous for is you can get a panel open. Like I opened up a panel and was experimenting. So I just added myself because I have a few accounts now. And but you can bring people into your conversation and just passerbyers, right? Because you never know who's going to pass by and go, I'm interested in that. Or they can text you and say, hey, can I join your conversation next time? And you can send them a link. But it's very engageable, as complicated as it looks when you first go out and watch a few YouTubes about it. Until you start using it, it doesn't make sense. But get out there, use your account to watch other people, find the groups that you like that resonate your interest and follow them. Follow people that, fit your personality like a friend, but also go out and find things that are similar to your topic, such as timeshares, which I did the other day. There's a whole community that talks good things about timeshares, timeshare hacks, timeshare cancellations, timeshare, there's hundreds if not thousands, and you can go out there and link up with these people, share your stories, maybe get more people to come and share their stories. Like you need more people, Irene, because every time I talk to you it's getting bigger.
We were the first ones you broadcast a whole hour on TikTok this past Tuesday, and I was a nervous wreck while it was going. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have 1,500, you have 500 impressions, you have 1,500, we were up to over 3,000 impressions on our first try. And there was a goal of 419 followers and we got 402. So it's like, I'm just wondering how we can we tie?
Right now, this situation, because TikTok, they have rules, right? Scalable rules. And so you have to be a TikTok member for 30 days before they even consider to allow you to have a live studio for whatever reason. And then when you get that live studio, when you first start, you're only going to get 30 minutes. And then you scale up. The more you use it, the more you get time. And then the more followers you get, the more time you get, more tools and toys, and get out and use moderators, and they have digital creators and moderators that will come and help you. So it's really a lot of community help. But this problem I have right now is the only account that we can use a live studio with is my private account. And I don't know why, but I have been able to run it hours at a time. Like today, I have been running almost 4 hours without being turned off. And I have literally looped one show after another, just stacked them one after another for almost 4 hours. And,
how do I tell people, like, just reaching out? I've mentioned it to a couple of our younger timeshare buyers, and they're like, oh yeah, and they're just like swim with it. But for some people that haven't been exposed to it, okay, Jeff hasn't used it. How would he go about hearing us on TikTok? Does he have to have an account, or can he just go and keyword something?
You're going to have to get an account to watch it on TikTok, but you can watch us anywhere. We're on Amazon, Roku, Live, and we have post shows where you can watch us video on demand. It's all free. We're all free TV. We have free movies. Go to our website. You can scan the QR code that I post up every once in a while. That QR code will take you directly to the accounts to watch whatever we're airing at the time, which is really good. But if you want to watch Irene, definitely go to Pod TV website. That's podtv.tv. And you can find her video on demand shows. All of her episodes are there. Her specials are there. And we're setting up more and more means of engagement so that people can contact you.
It's a fluid situation, Jeff. So you've been on the show today, And we've had people that have been on 2 or 3 times. Megan has been on. She was 3 months pregnant when she bought from Wyndham. Danica was on at 4 months. She was adorable. So, and then we have her come on in 6 months or a year from now. And we had Tracy on that was defaulting on Westgate, and she was a mess. She was nervous breakdown. I'm going to have to file for bankruptcy. Da, 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 da. And then we had her on like 8 months later, and she was like transformed, superwoman. She's like, it wasn't my fault. I couldn't have avoided it. So we want to turn. We don't want to. Well, our ICE agent turned the predator into the prey, but we just want people to be empowered. I think empowered is a better
We're at
word.
the hour, so we have to wrap because we have another
Yeah,
show.
with that, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Lori, for being on the show.
Thank you
It
for
wasn't so
watching us.
bad.
We'll see you next week on Timeshare Solution or Surrender, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have a story, bring it to Irene. She will definitely help you figure out what the situation is and help to guide you in the right direction, because she's all about you can do it yourself, but sometimes you just need some, hand holding and some ideas. So everyone, take care, stay healthy so that you stay wealthy. We'll see you next week.